In the world of management, we are absolutely obsessed with leading other people. But what if I told you the single most powerful leadership tool has nothing to do with your team and everything to do with you? Today, we are opening up the Self-Leadership Playbook, and we're going to see why the most effective leaders, the truly great ones, always start by leading themselves first.
But before we dive in, let me ask you something. I want you to pause for just a second and think about the best leader you have ever worked with. I'm serious. Get a specific person in your head. What was it about them? What did they do that made them so good? Got them? Okay, good. Keep that person in mind as we go.
All right, here's where we're headed. First, we're going to talk about a universal problem that every single leader runs into. Then, we'll get into a timeless solution that's built on 3 core skills: self-awareness, self-reflection, and self-regulation. And finally, we'll see how all of this connects to the kind of lasting impact you can have.
Look, it doesn't matter if you're running a tiny startup or a giant global company. Every leader eventually hits the same wall. It's almost like there's this predictable formula for challenges that can create friction and just cause things to go sideways, even with the best intentions.
So, what's in this formula? Well, it's really 3 things. First, there's the constant feeling of having way too little time. Then, you've got the wonderful complexity of people dynamics, all their different motivations and personalities. And finally, there's this subtle, sneaky thing, the influence of power itself, which can actually change how you act without you even realizing it.
And what's wild is just how fast that power thing can kick in. Check this out. There was this fascinating study from the University of Berkeley back in '98. They took groups of 3 students, and in each group, they randomly picked one person to be the supervisor for a simple task. Then, after just 30 minutes, they brought in a plate of cookies.
And the results? They were pretty amazing. As you can see here, the person who was just randomly made the supervisor ate way more cookies. They even chewed with their mouths open more often and left more crumbs. It's a brilliant, kind of funny illustration of a huge point. Even a tiny taste of power can start to change our behavior almost instantly.
So, if the pressure of time, the messiness of people, and the pull of power are universal problems, what on earth is the solution? Well, it's not some hot new management trend you'll read about. The answer is actually ancient. It's the discipline of leading yourself first.
This idea goes way back. Almost 2,000 years ago, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote this: "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." It's just such a powerful reminder that our external world, our success as a leader, is really just a mirror of our internal world.
And this isn't just some old philosophy. Modern thinkers are all over it. The founder of Visa, a guy named D. Hawk, gave this incredible recommendation. He said a leader should spend 40% of their time leading themselves. 40% before they even try to lead anyone else. So how in the world do you actually do that?
Okay, that brings us to our very first tool. It all starts right here with self-awareness. You can think of this as the foundation for the entire self-leadership playbook. It's about being willing to take a really honest, maybe even uncomfortable look in the mirror.
Now here's the catch. This gets so much harder the more successful you become as a leader. Why? Well, because people stop giving you honest, direct feedback. You can ask your team, "Hey, how are things going?" And you just get crickets. So you have to find ways to generate that awareness for yourself. Here's a super simple exercise you can try. First, think about a leader you've had in the past, maybe even the worst one. Pinpoint a specific negative trait they had, like maybe they withheld information. Now for the tough part, on a scale of 1 to 5, honestly score yourself on that exact same trait. If you find a gap, awesome. Now you can actually make a plan to get better.
So self-awareness is a fantastic start, but it's not a one-and-done thing. To make it really stick, you need the second tool, daily self-reflection. This is the practice that turns that momentary insight into a real, consistent habit.
And look, this doesn't need to take a lot of time. We're talking just a few minutes in the morning with a notebook. Just ask yourself a few questions. How did I show up as a leader yesterday? What's coming at me today? And here's the big one. How would the best version of me handle these things? And this is not just some feel-good activity. There's real science here. Research from the University of California actually shows that this tiny habit, just a couple of minutes a day, can measurably increase your compassion for other people. That is a direct antidote to that cookie problem we talked about, the tendency for power to make us less considerate. Okay, so you're becoming more aware, you're reflecting every day, But what happens in the heat of the moment when the pressure is really on? That brings us to our third and final tool, self-regulation. This is the discipline of managing your impulses when you really need to. So, picture this. A team member comes into a meeting and tells you they don't have the report they promised would be done. Your immediate reaction? That flash of frustration? That's your knee-jerk reaction. Self-regulation is the skill that lets you hit pause on that feeling and choose a smarter, more effective response.
A really powerful technique to do this is called reframing, and it's incredibly simple. In that frustrating moment, the first thing you do is just stop. Take a breath before you say or do anything. Then ask yourself this question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how truly important is this issue really? So often, you'll realize it's a 2 or a 3, not a full-blown 10, and that little bit of space can change everything.
So you've got self-awareness, self-reflection, and self-regulation. When you start weaving these three tools together, you're doing more than just managing a to-do list. You start building a real, enduring impact. You stop being just a boss and start becoming a leader who truly makes the people around them better. And this brings us all the way back to the beginning. Remember that great leader I asked you to think about? Well, the question is now for you. How will you become that person for somebody else? How will you become the leader that they remember years down the road as the absolute best they ever worked with?
In the end, this whole playbook is actually pretty simple, though that doesn't always mean it's easy. It's not about mastering others. It's about mastering yourself. Because you have to remember, great leadership always starts with you.